Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making these super cute, easy Hawaiian flower bag charms. These would also make super great keychains or bag charms on a backpack, on luggage, anywhere where you'd like to add a little splash of color. To make your Hawaiian flower bag charms, you're going to need yarn. You're going to need the green. You are going to need whatever color for your petals. And then just some scraps for those inside stamen or the center of those flowers. I used a 6mm crochet hook for mine, but you could also use a 5mm if you want them to be a little bit smaller. You will need a needle for sewing in your tails and a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. To start, you're going to need 2 strands of yarn for the center. That is this little bit in the middle there. This is about 8 inches, 2 strands of yarn. And we want to make a loose knot in the center. Just kind of snug it, just eyeball it so that that knot is in the middle, like that. And now do it again. We want a double knot. This is going to hold it in the middle. Nice and easy little cheat. There we go. So that is going to be the center of our flower. So to set that to the side, we're going to start again with a magic ring. So just lay that yarn on your non-dominant hand, hold it down on your ring finger, make an X, bring it underneath your thumb, turn your hand over so you have your 2 strands, slide it underneath the first strand, grab the second strand, point the hook towards yourself, point the hook away from yourself, and bring that long strand through to make your magic ring. Now you do not need to leave a particularly long tail for this, but also not a short tail either, just a regular normal tail. So there is our magic ring. We're going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now we're going to slip stitch into the center of that ring going over our tail. So a little slip stitch and chain 10 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And slip stitch again into the ring going over your tail. So you can pause the video and keep working along. We want a total of 10 of these loops. So we're going to do a chain 10 8 more times, and I will meet you back. So there are my 10 petals, and we're just going to do a chain 1 to secure our yarn. And cut your yarn, just leaving a normal tail. We're just going to knot these ones together and cut it off, so it doesn't have to be that long. So pull that tail through and snug it down to secure. You can pull that center tail a little bit just to close it up a smudge, not all the way. And just keep track of which tail you're pulling, which is this one up here for me. And our V's are facing up, which will mean our petals are facing out the pretty side of our stitches. The other side looks a bit like macaroni, and this side looks like little V's. We want the V's being the pretty side facing up. Now go ahead and take that center yarn, or the yarn that we knotted for the center, and our little double knot, that guy right there. We just want to take it and poke it up from under so it is through the center of that flower. And now we can go ahead, grab that tail and really pull it. We can really officially shrink it shut. If you're using acrylic yarn, you can really snug it down. If you're using cotton or a natural fiber, be a bit careful that your yarn doesn't snap. Now, while it's being pulled snug, knot that good and tight, and you can knot it 2 or 3 times. We can cut those pink tails off, and we can pull our center, that center yarn, a bit down so that knot is right on top of our magic ring, like that. We're going to trim these later, so don't worry about how long they are, but I want to just finish assembling our flower before I do trim them. And now we're going to make the cap. To make the cap of your flower, we're going to start by leaving about a 14-inch tail and then making a magic ring. Put that yarn over your non-dominant hand and make your magic ring. So just hold it down on your ring finger with your thumb, wrap it around 2 fingers, making an X, and bring it underneath your thumb as well, just to hold it in place. Turn your hand over and you have a short strand and a long strand. Grab your crochet hook, hook side facing down, underneath the short strand on top of the long strand. Bring the long strand underneath the short strand and point that hook towards yourself. Release your thumb a little bit so that long strand can slide. Turn your hook away from yourself and grab that long strand. Pinch everything underneath your hook. Turn your hook and bring it through, and there is your magic ring with a 14-inch tail. Chain 2. 1 and 2. Now into the center of the ring going over that tail, we want to do 6 double crochets. So super easy, 6 double crochets. So there is our 6 double crochets. You can pull that tail to shrink it shut and just rotate your work a little bit so we can see that first stitch we made. So we're not counting our chain 2. We're going to go into that very first double crochet we made. So it's that stitch right there. So just slide your hook in. Put some tension on your yarn. We want to make sure we're just going to do a small slip stitch. So using some tension, pulling on your tail, 1 little slip stitch to join that up into a little cap, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn. Now you want to leave just a normal tail, maybe a little bit longer, about 6 inches, and pull your yarn up and your hook through and snug that down to secure. Now we can flip our cap inside out, so our pretty stitches are facing out, and there is the cap. So that is the first cap. Now we have to make 1 more cap, but a little bit different. To start the second cap, you want to leave about a 24-inch tail. So all that yarn is our tail. So leaving your long tail, we want to make a magic ring. So making your X, wrapping around the 3 fingers, turning it the other way, upside down, hook under the short, on top of the long, bringing it through, pointing it towards yourself, slowly releasing, grabbing the long strand, pinching everything under your hook, bringing it through, and chaining 2. 1 and 2. Now this is the same as the first cap, 6 double crochets into the center of the ring, taking care to go over your tail. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're going to pull that big long tail to really close up that magic ring, just like that. And now we're going to look for that first double crochet we made. So not the chain, we're ignoring the chain. We're going to go straight into that very first double crochet right there. That is where we're going to slip stitch. Just pop your hook in, shrink up your yarn, and make 1 slip stitch, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Now you can cut this tail, and just a normal tail, just a few inches to sew in later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down. Inside out your circle. So now you have a cap with a long tail and a cap with a short tail. So now you can grab your flowers. We can do the short cap first. This one is where we're going to start. So find that tail that comes from the center inside our lid or inside our cap and thread that onto a needle. I like the sharp tip needles for this. They're linked down below. Now you want to fold up your flower. I just poke it up in my hand like that, just so I have that little knot, and I can kind of control all those petals so that they are facing down and everything is behaving. And now I'm just going to insert my hook underneath all of that. So into the pink part of the petals and out the other side. And now before I pull it too tight, I want to go back up into the center of that lid, coming out as close to the center as I can. There we go, just like that. And now take your yarn, just go underneath one of those loops or underneath a bit of the yarn at the top. Just bring it through and then poke your needle back through that loop to make a knot. There we go. So that is secure. And now we can just sew in this tail from one side to the other. And now you can do the same with the other tail, just from one side to the other, making sure you're not pulling too much so that it doesn't really change the shape of that cap. We don't want it to be looking funny, but we do want to be going through from one side to the other. So just rotate it and go back a stitch over and back out the other side. Now you can just cut off those tails. And get your flower cute. Get those stamen or the center of your flowers kind of lined up. And you want to cut those off about 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter longer than your flower. So there is your first flower with that short cap. Now we have the flower with the long cap. So find your long tail, that's the one we want. Thread that onto your needle. Get your flower looking pretty. So poke it up through your hand. And then go in again from one side to the other. A little bit underneath, we want to be going through the petals, not just that center knot. And then before we pull it tight, we want to go right back up in the center, out the cap. And then pull that yarn to shrink it onto the top of your flower. Give it a nice pull and smooth down that cap or that lid. Just like that. I want to go underneath a couple strands of yarn. And then back through that loop before we shrink it down all the way. That's just going to knot the yarn, so we stop that yarn from loosening from the lid, from the flower. There, just like that. Now on the other side, you'll see the yarn is coming from one side of the center. On the other side, grab a little bit of yarn and just pop your needle through. But this time we're going to leave that loop. I'm going to leave that loop right there. That is going to be the loop for our crochet hook. So we're done threading this one for this minute. Go ahead and thread the short tail. And we're going to sew that cap onto the flower, same as we did before. So in from one side and out the other side. And insert your crochet hook into that loop you made at the top. Now here we want to do a really small chain. So even just at the top of your hook, how you're not supposed to chain, that's how we're going to chain. You could also use a smaller hook, but you could just use the top bit of your chain. We want the first couple chains to be small, like that. Now we can chain regular. You can adjust how many you chain. That is going to change the distance between your flowers. If you want to wrap it around something larger, you could chain more. If you want to do it around something smaller or have a shorter keychain, you could chain less. For this tutorial, I'm going to be chaining 25, 24, and 25. So when you have chained your 25 or the length you want your flowers or the distance you want your flowers to be apart, just pull your hook up and your yarn through and go back to your trusty needle. We're going to thread this yarn onto our needle. Grab your second flower, and right at the top, you want to just go in to the center and then through our chain. We want to make sure our chain is nice and stuck on the top of our second flower. And then when it's attached, just put that yarn through your flower and out one side, back out the other side, and you can cut that off as well. There is your super cute Hawaiian flower bag charms. You could just wrap them around whatever you'd like right now, just poking them through that loop. Or you can do the same to your little clamp, your little clip. Then just arrange them so they are hanging the way you'd like them to be, a little off center, or you could have them hanging equally if you'd like. And then just grab one flower at a time and bring it through that loop. There's one, there's two, and then just slowly, gently tighten it. And there is your super cute bag charms or keychain. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.